From the horse they used to hide behind the hedge in shame to winning a Golden Eagle and chasing an Everest. He is I Wish I Win, and we're here at Waikato Stud to talk all about him with Mark Chittick and Peter Moody. Well, guys, you've already captured a Golden Eagle. Now you're trying to climb Everest together.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. It's been an incredible ride, and yeah, to get the opportunity to, let's say, climb a big hill like that in front of us, it's quite an unreal feeling.
How did you settle on this fella to train the horse?
He told me it's coming to him.
And Moods, take us back to the start. So it's around about 12 months ago or a little longer when I Wish I Win arrived in the stable. What was there an expectation, or did you just learn as you went?
Well, listen, he's a horse that had performed well in good races in New Zealand. Listen, you always respect the New Zealand form, but you never know it's franked until you actually see it in Australia. I said to Mark at the time, I said, well, listen, he's going to be a bloody handy horse. Did we dream of having an Eagle horse, an Everest horse, or a Group 1 horse? No.
When did you start to get excited? When did you get an exciting vibe from across the ditch?
It was probably that first start there, and just, let's say, the way he won it. And then once again you sort of think, okay, what's he beaten? But then when he came out in that listed race the following start and won that so well, it's like, goodness me, we might be in town.
And same to you, Pete. I mean, was there a turning point where you thought, I've got a really serious horse?
Well, you get a feel from the people around you, obviously, and for me, Luke Nolan, who's been a fair part of the story as well, like he did a bit of work on the horse at home and trialled him, and when I ran him in that first race, and I can't remember whether it was weight related or suspension, but Luke was in tears that he wasn't riding this horse. And I always pick up on Luke when he knows we've got a nice horse in the camp. He always wants me to employ a jockey that he knows will be easily replaceable next time round by Al Nolan. Well, when Jay Carr, Australia's pin-up girl, won the first start on him, he said, "You bastard, how are we ever going to get her off him?" So I knew then that he had a feel that this horse was pretty bloody good.
And it all happened really quickly, didn't it? Like suddenly you've got this exciting horse, you're at a tricky point of spring where you've got to try and work out what you're going to do. Was the Cox Plate in your mind at that stage, the Ladbrokes Cox Plate?
Well, ultimately, I think I said to Mark, we'll go to the Toorak and that'll be our gate into the Cox Plate. And let's be quite honest, had he won that Toorak, he would have been in the Cox Plate. We wouldn't have entertained the Golden Eagle, to be quite honest. But as you do with horses all the time, you learn about them. He didn't have the best of luck in the Toorak. He drew a little bit awkward.
And he wasn't at his top either in your mind?
Well, we quickly learnt that with this horse, even though he's a tough seasoned gelding, that I think he appreciates a bit of time between the breaks. And from that Sandown run to the Toorak was only 13 days. And it was the only flat run of his career. That's why we're very mindful heading towards an Everest that we want to keep the horses run spaced.
And then Moods had to change things up. You're heading towards a Golden Eagle, but with confidence or hope?
Yeah, no, it was interesting. He rang me one day and it was, well, which way would you prefer to go, the Cox Plate or the towards the Golden Eagle? And obviously my answer was you're in charge, but I just think we could get beaten up a bit at that stage, Cox Plate wise, and let's sort of take not the easier option, but against his own age group and let's face it, the money. And his comment was, I'm pleased you've lent that way, because that's what I was thinking. And obviously with that Golden Eagle and the way he quickened and nearly got caught over that 1500 metres, I think that was the turning point for this shorter distance stuff.
You've had so many great moments, but that was a special thrill, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. $10 million race. It was an unusual feel, and actually both Luke Nolan and I have so much elation in winning it, but at the same time it feels a little bit of hollow, I think, because it's such a young race and it doesn't have the status or the grandeur attached to it. And I could always, Trumby Nolan never won, he doesn't talk a lot, but I said, it's a bit funny, isn't it? We were going to the airport after the race and I said, it sort of feels a little bit hollow, he said, until the check arrives.
I guess the burning question with this horse is, what is he? Is he a sprinter? Is he a middle distance horse?
he might run a mile and a quarter, but he's turn of foot, and I think I probably shocked Mark a little bit when we initially had the conversation about just trying him as a dead set sprinter. And I said to Mark, let's have a throw at the stumps, let's give him a chance. And this money around for sprinters is astronomical, and he's a gelding, so there's no pressure. We weren't protecting a big pedigree of an entire or a stallion. Let's try something different, because the turn of foot that we'd seen at home on dry ground particularly was pretty special.
So this campaign's sprinting, but you're not. In 12 months' time, you could be stretching out.
Who's to say in the autumn we don't have a throw at the stumps at an Australia Cup and put that one to bed? I don't know, but let's worry about that when we worry about it.
There's no pressure in it. You know, the options are there with this horse. And going back to your first question to Peter, you know, when he made the phone call to me, he said, you might think I'm mad. Well, we already knew that. but I said, I don't think you're mad at all, considering the sprint races, the way he quickened in that Golden Eagle. But you're right, going into, let's say, later on in the year or next year, if Peter wants to try something else, he will have put a bit of thought into it, and I'm right behind it.
And what would an Everest win mean?
Oh, well, as I say, I've learned a hell of a lot about the Everest in the last few months, because I didn't think I was ever going to need to know it. And especially now with New Zealand tie-up with the Trackside New Zealand slot and the buzz that's happening in our country. Yeah, the hype as we're getting closer going into it. You know, usually whenever we've had a runner in a Group 1 race, I start getting a bit wound up, you know, sort of the Monday before. But yeah, it started months ago.
Pretty cool to be part of, Moods.
Yeah, it is special. I've had the favourite in the Melbourne Cup and I didn't get nervous, but to have one of the ruling favourites heading into a $20 million race, well, that's a different ball game, isn't it? So I don't really know what to expect or how it's going to feel, because we haven't been down that road before.
No, they'll have to take the no smoking signs down.